Bose is the presenting partner of Beyond the Grid. That's because Bose Quiet Comfort 35.2 goes beyond what you would expect from a pair of headphones. Just flip the switch to experience the industry-leading active noise reduction feature, and all distractions of the world around you fade away, allowing you to focus on what matters to you.
Hi, I'm Gerhard Berger, and you're listening to Beyond the Grid.
Hi there, it's TC here, and welcome to another episode. This time I'm winding the clock back several decades because I'm chatting to a driver who lived through the hedonistic 80s and 90s. It was an era of outrageous cars, pioneering designs, and huge amounts of fun. And he also survived, which others didn't, and most notably his friend Ayrton Senna and his compatriot Roland Ratzenberger. It's F1's fastest ever prankster, Gerhard Berger, the man famous for chucking Senna's briefcase out of a helicopter, and what a life he's led. He's won, he's crashed, he's beaten the best drivers in the world in the same equipment, and he's raced for Ferrari. I caught up with him in Monaco, and it's fair to say he's mellowed a bit since our paths first crossed in 1996, but he's still got that mischievous twinkle in his eye. Gerhard, you had a great Formula One career, 210 races over 14 seasons with 10 victories. But more than that, you seem to epitomise 80s Formula One, for me at least. You were fast, you were daring, you were glamorous, you were fun, women loved you, even Bernie Ecclestone loved you. Would you agree with that?
Well, I should have raised the money if it's like this. If you're telling the right things, then I sold myself too cheap. Only mistake.
But is that how you look back on it?
No, you know what? Funny that you asked me just now the question, because this morning I was sitting together with Jean Alesi, with my old teammate, when we've been together in Ferrari, and I said, Jean, you know, we did not realize which nice life we had when we've been here Ferrari driver. We come in the last moment, we left in the first moment, instead we celebrate before, celebrate after. I mean, to have a life in Formula One, to be Ferrari driver, to be loved by the people, to have the talent to do well, it's just something very, very special. And I think you need to get a certain age to understand this. But obviously now I'm a lot of time in my bed and I say, well, I have to say thanks God to be in this situation. It couldn't be a better life.
But Gerhard, how do you reflect on it all?
Well, first, I mean, I come out from a small village with 14,000 people up in the mountains, and when I was a young boy, I would like to go karting. My father didn't allow me. I didn't have the possibility. So I started racing with 21-year-old, and everybody in my village said, "The idiot! What is he gonna do?" And suddenly I was sitting in Modena in Ferrari, and then in McLaren, and then in wherever, and suddenly things falls in my hand in a way that I just couldn't believe it. I thought I was so good. No, I was luck. You know, I was really, and I'm very thankful about it. And I'm very thankful that first I survived, because a lot of my colleagues didn't survive. Secondly, I had some success. Thirdly, I made good money, so I still can spend a good life. But the most important thing is I did my life long what I love to do. I'm still around in the sport. And I still see the people who are always with me for many, many years.
Well, let's get one thing straight. It wasn't luck. You were a great driver, all those pole positions. But what were you doing until you were 21? What direction was your life going in?
I was a truck mechanic, sitting in my workshop, changing gearboxes and clutches of trucks, and I said, "Yeah, this cannot be your life. You have to change something. Look how dirty you are, how heavy this thing is. Find something easier. And by the way, the money what you're making is also not good enough." So I had a clear idea, but it went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah. Was money the motivation a lot of the way through for you?
In my way, it was a question. I mean, I would lie if it wouldn't be a motivation, because I know your next question would be, if money wasn't your motivation, why did you go to Ferrari at this time? You know, you could have gone to Williams, you know, but Williams didn't want to pay me the money. But I tried, you know, I mean, I tried to take everything. I was maybe when I was with Ayrton or things like this, or Luis, or they focus on one thing. Luis maybe is a bad example. Luis maybe is also trying to do everything, but focus on one thing, just the success, just the moment, just the physical training, just get the result out of it. Me, I try to get the result. I try to not miss the party. Try to see if the people was nice looking in the party. I try to have a nice holiday. I try to make some money. So I try to capture a lot of things. And in some ways it worked out. The only small thing I'm missing at the moment is the World Championship.
Well, you say you enjoyed yourself, all the trimmings that come with being a successful Formula One driver, but have you ever wondered what might have been had you taken it a little bit more seriously? Was there more pace in you if you had?
Difficult to say. Yes, I was questioning myself sometimes, but I remember when I came to McLaren, at the time I was together with Ayrton the star. I was coming from Ferrari, winning the races. Ayrton was just arriving in McLaren, coming from Lotus. And Ron Dennis says to me, Gerhard, you're a brilliant driver. You're really big natural talent, but we have to shape you. You're a diamond, but we have to shape you. You cannot use the curbs in the way you're doing. You need to be clean. You need to be... And obviously I was listening, a lot of experience there. But was it the right way to listening? I don't think so. I just should stay like I've been, using the curbs, sideways, whatever. Because that was my natural instinct, that was my nature. And that's the same when you tell me, if you would be just focused, if you would not go to the party, would it really make me more successful? I don't know. I doubt.
Well, look, tell us a little bit more about Ayrton Senna. What was he doing differently in the car then that made him faster than you?
Well, I think it wasn't a question of speed. It was a question of the package. Obviously, Ayrton had a big advantage to me. He started when he was 4 years old with karting, and he had already 400 races behind him when he started in Formula One, where I started racing when I was 21. Obviously, I was with 24 already in Formula One, but in total, I think I had about 40 races from zero to Formula One. So you never can get this experience back. So from this side, Ayrton was an extremely experienced guy, in combination with a lot of natural talent, in combination with a really good brain. He was very switched on. He was a street fighter, Brazilian street fighter. And then he had a big ability to concentration. I mean, he had an extremely strong concentration. And that made him different to all the rest. I mean, I think you could cut off his hand and he still wouldn't feel it until the race was over. And that gave him an extra boost.
Now, when you came into McLaren at the start of 1990 and you out-qualified him in Phoenix at the opening race, that must have been a bit of a shock for him. But were you surprised that you'd put one over on him so soon?
No, I was not surprised at all because, on this moment, all my teammates, in some way I could beat. Out of just my natural talent, because I never went to physical trainings, I never did anything, and I just talent. But that was also my big handicap, because it allowed me until this moment to handle it in the way I was handled. So when I signed up for McLaren, I have to say I was quite naive, because I thought Ayrton just going to be the next one, what's going to be in troubles. And I went to Brazil, and and Ayrton was the king of the rain. First day was practice in the wet, I was quickest. Second day was practice in the dry, I was quickest. So I said, well, not a big deal. Unfortunately, I crashed because really the car was made for Alain Prost, and I was stuck with my legs between the pedal because I really had not space in the car, so it didn't worry me. And so the race was over. I felt good. I went to holiday like usual to have some fun. Ayrton went back to Brazil, thought about everything, come back, and I never beat him again.
But do you think McLaren gave you a fair crack of the whip throughout those 3 seasons?
Yes. I have to say, I mean, we all know the up and downs of Ron Dennis and the thing, but he always been extremely fair to me. The team was a family for me. We had a fantastic time with Monsu, with Ron, with Ayrton, with the mechanics and the managers at the time. It was really a big family, with big fun, with very competitive, and it was one of my best time in racing. Obviously, I spent 6 years in my career with Ferrari, and Ferrari has some special glamour, and they've been also fantastic to me. So I talk sometimes more about Ferrari, but I have to say McLaren was as good as Ferrari to me. And now we are sitting here in the McLaren motorhome, and I have to say I love the brand, I love McLaren, and when I see the old guys, they've been all super to me.
Well, look, we'll come on to Ferrari in a minute, but just a couple more questions on Senna. Do you feel he was fair to you? Did he ever try and mislead you on setup? Or?
No, I think he was playing the game, of course, as everybody do, and as I did. As I said before, he was an extremely clever guy. I mean, the way how he played the games, it was not in a way that you understand it straight away, typical Brazilian way. But in the end, we've been friends, no question. And I tell you, I think if I would be in the shit, he would help me, and if he would be in the shit, I would help him. We had a real honest relationship.
Were you closer to him than any other driver at that time?
Difficult to say, because in the end of the day, Prost gave him the hardest time. Alan was obviously, with his experience and also his talent. I mean, Alan is 4 times world champion. He's a very special driver. He challenged Ayrton to the maximum, as we remember. But when you look into qualifying times and things like this, I think I challenged Ayrton a lot. And I remember well Ayrton sometimes coming to me. I remember qualifying in Imola. I went out to bowl, he went out to bowl, I went out to bowl, he went out to bowl. And we was sitting for the last run, and he put his belts off, got out of the car, come over to my car, and I say, shit, it's getting a little bit dangerous slowly. And I had a laugh, and we just go for it. So we pushed each other very much. But in the end of the day, the result of Ayrton was better than my ones. He won the World Championship.
Now, what about the joking with Senna? Because part of me wonders whether that was your way of dealing with sitting alongside the best driver in the world, all the practical jokes. Was that your way of dealing with the pressure, or was that just Gerhard Berger?
Not really, that just was myself, It was just a time. I mean, sometimes now I even shake my head and say, well, was it the right thing to do? But at the time it was, and we had a tough sport. I had a very tough competition in the team. We had also, at this time, still more dangers involved. We've been in more risk. So it needs a compensation, and we had this with doing some fun, doing some nice holidays, doing some jokes to each other.
And was Senna a funny guy? Did he deal with your sense of humour?
No, he was a funny guy. He reached sometimes the limits with my jokes. I think some things went a bit over the top on his view. But
give us an example.
No, we had every day something going on, and he just couldn't sometimes believe it. He just sit down, but it doesn't matter. I don't like to go back to this too much, because it puts our racing then a little bit in the shadow, because in the end of the day we had extremely tough racing, qualifying, over 1,000 horsepower cars, no servo, steering, brakes, whatever, all shifting, one hand driving, one hand shifting. It was a time where Formula One was maybe on his peak, and we managed these cars, and we raced wheel on wheel, and I think that's what I like more to remember than the jokes.
Okay, I think we have to touch on Imola 94 when we're talking about Senna. Did he ever, prior to his death, talk to you about stopping?
In Imola, after the accident of Roland of Ratzenberger, we meet each other in the morning, and he said to me, Gerd, we need to get together because we need to improve safety in the sport. And we fixed after this race to do something and to see how we can approach it. Because we had the discussion already a couple of years before, and that's really, really sad story. When I had my accident basically on the same place than he had, and I just survived by lucky circumstance. And when I was in the hospital, Ayrton called me, and I said to Ayrton, Ayrton, we have to do something with this wall. One day somebody's gonna die in this wall. And we met in the test after a couple of weeks later in Imola, and we walked from the pits to the place where I had my accident, and we looked how to remove this wall. And we see behind the wall is going a river. And we looked at each other and we say, nothing really we can do because there's a river behind. And we walked back and we didn't do anything. And that was the place where Ayrton died. So it was in our hands already, and we didn't think at this stage about putting a chicane and slow it down. For us, was just, can we move the wall? Can we increase the runoff area? And we did not react in the right way. And then there was another approach after Ratzenberger did, but then we couldn't step in again because Ayrton was in the next day but died.
Why did you carry on after Imola?
For me, it was straightforward. I went back and said, listen, is it already the right time for me to stop? I mean, we all know that this is the risk of our sport. We all know that this can happen. But my career, I'm already over the middle of my career. Is it maybe now the right time to say, okay, bye-bye? Or would I miss it too much, and would I feel bad when I'm sitting at home and not racing anymore? So after one day, the answer was clear. No, I couldn't. I just couldn't do it.
Just couldn't give up?
Couldn't stop. Couldn't
the drug
give up
of
at
racing?
This stage. Yeah, maybe it's the drug of racing, or I still felt that I have still to be in the car.
How did your attitude to danger change during your career? Because even, I think you're only a couple of races in, at the end of 84, you had that road car accident, didn't you? Was that a wake-up call for you? I mean, can you just tell us what happened? Because I think not very many people know what happened.
No, the road car accident wasn't a wake-up call for me, but it was a terrible accident. I got a call to go testing, I think, touring car somewhere or whatever, in the evening. So I went quick to my office just to pick up my suit and everything. And it was a road where no people go in the night. So I just drive back, maybe a little bit fast, and the guy, what was drunk, came out from a side road and crashed into my car, and I flew through a breach. I flew out of the car because I had no seatbelt on at this time, and I landed in a river, and I broke actually my neck, and had bad head injury, and I was really very close to die on this accident. I've been extremely lucky because, as I said before, no cars on this road in the night, but there was a car behind me on this day, and they saved my life. And when I was laying in the river, I couldn't move myself anymore because about the broken back. And these guys handled me in a very special way. And then they had infusions. I couldn't even say why the infusions was already there. Then the ambulance arrived, and these guys told to the guy from the ambulance, if you're gonna bring him up from the river in this way, he's gonna die. So they had to bring an airbed and things like this. Until I understood after, there was 2 helicopter doctors from Germany on the motorway, hungry, and they say, let's go off from the motorway, let's find a restaurant. And that was where, some circumstance, the car behind me, and they had infusions in the car and everything in the car, and this basically they saved my life.
That's an incredible story. Were you conscious throughout?
Yeah, I was conscious. For a moment I was unconscious, but then I was conscious, and I could tell them what I have, and they immediately understood that I have a back injury, and that they cannot move me, otherwise the nerve were going to have a problem. So again, I mean, this was maybe my biggest luck in my life.
And yet you were racing for Arrows the following season?
No, at this time I didn't have an Arrows contract. I was just negotiating with Czechia. And I was basically in the hospital, and the newspaper say, well, he's dead or half dead and never going to be back and whatever. And Czechia gave up a bit about me. He was very sorry, but even if he was thinking to put me in his car, at this stage he said, well, that's it, I take another driver. And obviously I did everything to get out of the hospital to show Jackie that maybe I'm going to have a chance to be fit, and he took the risk and he put me in the car, and my career goes on.
Before we crack on with the interview, let me tell you a little bit more about the Bose Quiet Comfort 35.2 wireless headphones. The QC35.2s are the product of nearly 2 decades of dedicated noise-cancelling research by Bose. And what's really fantastic about them is that the inbuilt noise-cancelling technology constantly changes and adapts to suit whatever environment you're in. You can adjust the level of noise reduction using the 3 different settings, which comes in very handy when I need to concentrate on a busy race day, or when I'm travelling and I just need to kick back, zone out the background chatter and listen to some music. The fact that they're wireless gives me the freedom to go about my business without getting tangled up in a web of cables. And there's the added bonus that they're optimized for both Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant, meaning they're hands-free as well. So I can check the latest news or make sure I haven't forgotten anything on my to-do list without lifting a finger. They're the ideal companion for a busy working day or just a lazy afternoon at home. And with up to 20 hours battery life, there's absolutely no excuse for you not to work your way through the Beyond the Grid back catalogue, is there? Now let's get back to that interview. Just to reiterate, you broke your neck and your back, and yet you were racing at the start of the following season.
I broke my first vertebra, my second one. I had a head injury, I had a kidney injury, I had basically everything what you
had it all
what
going
you would
on.
not like to have.
Yeah.
And funny also, I came to the hospital and they put me in and they always try to see if I lose already the feeling in the legs and things like this, because I would be paralyzed basically up until the nose. And then they came and said, well, we have two possibilities. We put you on plaster for the next 6 months, or we make an operation. What is a very critical operation, because we have to open everything from the front on your throat, all the nerves going to the face and whatever, and have to screw together your back. That would mean you would recover much quicker. I say, okay. And there's another bad news. They say, I say, what is this? They say, well, it's the first time we're going to do this operation because it's a very new version to do it, and we never did it until now.
And you were the guinea pig.
So I say to them, I say, no risk, no fun, let's go on with it, And they did a great job, and they screwed everything together, and I was 3 months later, I was in the race car.
Any long-term effects of
No,
that?
that was about 3 years ago. I got a letter from the hospital, from the clinic, and they say, well, Mr. Berger would love to see you because you've been our first patient where we did this operation 20 or 25 years ago, and we would like to see how you are going. And I went there and I said, well, everything is fine. I think the neck is stronger than it was before because I had a couple of good accidents after and I never had a problem.
Well, I was going to say, so when you hit the wall in Tamburello...
It worked very well. The screws worked.
But what were you thinking, actually? You've mentioned that shunt at Imola, where I think it took 16 seconds for the marshals to get to you. You were on fire. What were you thinking?
It's better to get out here because otherwise I'm in troubles. No, actually I was unconscious at this moment. Okay. I remember everything until the impact. And I remember going to Tamburello, and the right front lift up the wheel. When I turned in, I said, shit, what's happened here? So I thought I have a puncture in the back. So I looked in the mirror and I didn't see it. Obviously it was a broken front wing, and the car wasn't possible to steer anymore, and I had a very bad angle to the wall, very straight on, and I said, I'm full of fuel, I'm very fast, this is not going to work out well.
You had time to think of all of that?
Yeah, it's unbelievable how the body switch in this moment. It goes everything like slow motion. When I was in the hospital, I thought the runoff area must be quite long and to get all these ideas. But when I saw it, I was shocked that the runoff area is very short. And the brain going so many strings through your brain and short before the impact, I say, oh, well, God, it's better you put your hands away from the steering wheel. And that's what I still did too. I put my hands on my shoulders and just wait for the big bang. And then I was unconscious. The next thing I remember then, Professor Sid Watkins sitting on my chest, trying to put the tube in to get some air into me. But then I was fine and I had a lot of pain from the fuel and from the burns, but they put me in the car, and obviously in the end of the day, from the dimension of the accident, I've been once more very lucky not to have too many problems.
And first thought was, when can I get back? Or did you question?
First thought, I tell you, when I was in the ambulance car, I had a lot of pain. And I said, never in my life I'm going to sit in one of these bloody cars. Then I had another moment because they put me in the emergency. They had to cut down my overalls and things like this, and my whole body was in fuel, and the fuel at this time was very aggressive. Together with fire, I thought my whole body is burned. So the nurses started to clean my hands, what was burned and things. But the biggest pain I had on my balls, and then so I was my thing was, how can I explain that? to leave my hands for a moment. So, well, the money I hope they don't take it wrong, but this is really where I have my. So, but end up everything fine. They took care about my balls, and in the end of the day, I was a couple of days in the hospital, and I came back one race later.
You did. You only
Two
missed
races.
you missed the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no long-term effects again.
No, I still have some calves in my hands and things.
Have you ever injured yourself outside of a racing car? I'm imagining that you're not a particularly slow skier. Are you a slow?
No, actually, I had a bad accident just 2 years ago on skiing. You know, I was my life long on skiing, and I even before walking, I started skiing. But 2 years ago, I skied close to my home, just slowly on the side, a bit like Michael. You know, not fast, nothing special, a bit on the side of the beast. And it was springtime already, very little snow, and there was a water pipe coming out from the ground, and it just. I just fall, and I fall flat out on this water pipe, and I missed my head by 10 centimeters, and I smashed completely my complete upper arm. And this was really the most painful I ever had, and it was still now. I have no feeling in my arm because the nerves was broken, and stupid thing after all the career, but it reminds me very much on what's happened with Michael.
It does. And actually, can you tell me whether a story I'm about to relate is true? In that when you were kids, did you lie in front of cars so that your friends on skis could then latch onto the back of the car and get dragged along?
No, much better.
Okay, tell me a better story.
I did not lie on the street. I made somebody others lie on the street that the car had to stop. We was waiting on the side because we in Austria in the winter we have snow roads. You know, it's cold ice. And I was too lazy to walk home, and so we had.
Is this from school or something?
We had
like
the
that?
school, the backpack, and the car stopped because somebody. And we jump up in the back and we hang on the back of the car with the shoes, not with skis, just with the shoes, on the icy road. The guy went up in front. The driver went into the car, and then they apologized, and the car is still driving, and me and my colleagues was hanging on the back of the car, and that's the way home, you know. And the car was driving 60, 70, 80, whatever. There was a couple of problems on it. One was when you catch where the water goes, the canal again, the pipe, there usually was warm and the ice was melt. So if you catch this one, you have a good, you fly. And the other thing was, you know, when you got the Volkswagen as example, he had fantastic, you can hang very, very well in the back. But I remember there was the Ford, you had to put the fingers inside, and when you fall, the gloves was hanging still, and the fingers had to go out, you know, and the car was driving with gloves hanging in the back. So this we used to do always in the winter, and it was good fun, yeah.
Good, happy days. You mentioned Ferrari. We have to talk about Ferrari as well, don't we? 6 years, 5 wins. I think you're the only driver who drove for the team when Enzo was alive and after his death. How did the team change once he'd gone?
Well, I have to say, first, yes, I was the last driver dealing directly with Enzo Ferrari and make my contract directly with Enzo Ferrari. Of course, was Piccinini involved, was Pieroladi involved, but I finally signed with Enzo Ferrari.
And you didn't have a manager, did you? So
No.
You did the negotiating, everything.
Yeah, and Enzo didn't speak English and I didn't speak Italian, so
how did it go?
Honestly, in the end of the day, we find our way and we made a deal.
How did you find him to deal with in that sort
It
of
was very interesting because I got a telephone call. I remember I was overtaking Stefan Johansson on the grass in Imola with the Benetton. And I think the day after, Ferrari called me. Piccinini called me and said, well, Mr. Ferrari would like to see you. And, you know, now my emotions, you can understand, they've been on the maximum coming out of this 14,000 people village. As I told before, a truck mechanic driving down to see Mr. Ferrari was already by itself a great thing to do. So I drive down, I had an Audi, I remember, old Audi, drive down. So we met outside of Maranello on a petrol station. So they put me in a car of Ferrari, covered me in the back, and straight went into Fiorano to the office of Mr. Ferrari.
Sorry to interrupt, they covered you?
Covered me,
with a coat or something?
Yeah, with a blanket. So it was typical Ferrari, you know, made out a big show of everything. But so I went to the Mr. Ferrari's office, and there was Mr. Ferrari, TAC office, I remember. Mr. Ferrari, then Piero Ferrari, his son, and Marco. And his first question was, do you have a manager? I said, no, I don't have a manager. I said, so it means if we agree, we could do a deal. I said, yes, if we agree, we can do a deal. And obviously he made me an offer. I mean, if it would be the other way around, if I would have to pay what he offered me, I would have said yes, made me a good offer. And we talked a little bit, and I went home with my first 3-year Ferrari contract, 2 years plus an option for the 3rd year.
And was it very straightforward?
Straightforward.
How long was that meeting to decide?
2 hours.
Right. Did you sign in those 2 hours?
Yeah, I think they had prepared already. Everything was just a question of putting the money in.
That's fantastic. And I guess you'd won your first race for Benetton the previous year. Do you think he saw in you a little bit of Gilles Villeneuve? It was why he got in contact after you were on the grass going past your
he
head?
had a little bit of history with Austrians already, because Nicky, he learned already that Austrians are survivors, let's say it this way. I had a very good relationship with him, also when I was driving with him, because I came in, I've been straight away quick with it. At this time, coming back a little bit to your earlier question, did your career change at one stage a little bit on the way how you take the risk? Yes, after my Imola accident, it changed it. Before my Imola accident, as more risk, as more fun I had. And obviously that's what fits perfect to the Ferrari culture. And when I came into Ferrari, I think I've been straight away quick. I put straight away my teammate Michele at the time under pressure. That's all what Ferrari likes to see. Even if Michele is Italian vice world champion, just been the big boy of them. But there's coming this crazy Austrian and go in the car and put him under pressure. So everything worked very well, and I had a very good relationship with Ferrari until the end.
And then you won at Monza, of all places.
At first I won the 2 races where I think he was extremely happy, because Ferrari had a period of long time not winning. And then I was doing a very good race in Estoril, and I spun in the leading in the last lap, because Alan put some pressure onto me, and my rear tires gone, and I lost 3 corners before the end, my backhand, so I finished second. And I got a very nice letter from Mr. Ferrari. Said, don't worry, even as much we would like to win this race, but you're going to win one of the next ones. And that's what happened. I won Suzuka, I won Adelaide, and obviously that made me, at the time, to be the new boy of Ferrari.
That's fantastic, because the win I was going to refer to was that one in '88, 2 weeks after he'd died. 1-2, you were ahead of your teammate Michele Alboreto.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember the scenes on the telly. I was on the edge of my seat cheering for you, because the passion of the Tifosi that weekend must have been so intense.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it started already before I was in the factory, and the Ferrari guy says to me, I think it was Marcos, saying, so, what are we going to do this weekend? And obviously that was the year where McLaren won everything. We had no chance. The 2 McLaren was just on another planet.
Was it just fuel consumption that was your problem, or was the car?
No.
The car was rubbish as well.
No, the engine was stronger, the car was better. No. It was not fuel consumption. I mean, the problem at this time was, I think it was the year with the bumper valve, first year with the bumper valve, and Honda got a way to overpressurize the spring of the bumper valve, so they just run more power. On top of it, I think it was a very good car, what McLaren built this year. On top of it, with Prost and Senna, you had 2 fantastic drivers in it. So they won all the races in this year, except this one. And I was in Ferrari, and then they said, what are we going to do this weekend? I said, well, I think we're going to win the race. And they say, very funny. If you win the race, and I say, okay, if I win the race, can I have the car? I was just staying in front of my car. Can I have my car? I say, of course, if you win the race, it's yours. I say, okay, good. So I go win the race, put the race straight away in the truck after bringing it to my home. Unfortunately, 2 days later, I sold it.
Oh, you said they did give it to you at least?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who bought your car?
A friend of mine bought it.
Now, Gerhard, so look, that's your career. There's one other victory I want to just touch on, and that is your last one. Hockenheim, 1997. I was there, very emotional. You'd missed the previous 3 races. Just to give some background to the listeners, you'd missed the previous 3 races. You'd been ill. Your father had died in the weeks previous, so you were mourning his loss. And you came back Win, pole, fastest lap. Was that your best victory?
I cannot say my best victory. My best victory for me, from a driving point, was Adelaide 1987. That was the one where, until last lap, I had to fight with Ayrton for the win. Hot conditions, street circuit, every lap on the limit. That was, for me personally, driving-wise, my best win. But the last win was maybe my most important one in different ways, because it was the end of my career. I changed from Ferrari back to Benetton with Flavio. I was in the end of my career. Michael brought Ross and everybody everybody was on the way to Ferrari. So the team was collapsing a little bit. We didn't do a good job, me and Sean.
What do you mean you didn't do a good job?
Well, it was the end of my career. Was busy with complaining instead, getting the sorted out the problems. It just didn't fit together. It was over. My time was over. I was 36, 37 years. I was not in a good, healthy conditions. And
were you unhappy during those Benetton years?
Yes, I was unhappy, but not necessarily to do with the team of Flavio. Yes, also it didn't fit very well, but also myself. It was just, when you get to the end of a career, things are getting more difficult. You start to be also different. You start to be moody. You start to be not so happy anymore, and that's all came together. And at the same time, the team, what was brilliant, started to be collapsing a bit because Michael took out the people he needs from Ferrari. So, and they still been in their mood where they won everything with Michael, and it just didn't fit together. It was nothing where I can say, well, that was the mistake of the team, that was the mistake of the engine, that was the mistake. No, it was a combination of everything. But nevertheless, it was fine. I worked okay with the team. But then I had a big sinus problem, what I carried already for a while with me, and it get worse and worse, and I was all the time on antibiotics, and physically I got weaker and weaker, and then I was coming to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore, and I went for 3 races out, or let's say I went to a hospital, they had to do an operation, and they fixed my problem, but I was for 2 races not in. In the meantime, Flavio made already different plans. He had already some new ideas how he could handle everything. So I had a very difficult, bad circumstance with Flavio, situation with Flavio. So in the end, he didn't want have me back in the car. I didn't want to really go back in one way, but the other way, I would like to finish the chapter.
Did he say as much? Gerhard,
Yeah.
if you want to stop, don't feel any pressure from me.
No, much worse. Flavio said, man, Gerhard, you just had the operation, stay at home, rest a bit more, and all these things. Before, it was very critical with Sean, but when it came to the situation I was in, he switched from trying to put Sean a little bit off, putting me off. And I had my operation. I was in the hospital, and he says, Gerhard, but you cannot drive this weekend. You are not fit now, and we need to see the doctor if you really can do it, and all this bullshit. So we had starting to get lawyers already in place. And so, well, I have a contract. That's my contract. That's my thing, and whatever. And so finally everything went okay, and I should be back for the race. And unfortunately, just when the race was going on, I think was it Magny-Cours or whatever, my father crashed on an airplane and died. So I couldn't do the race. And I think Flavio was happy again that I didn't do the race. And then was coming Hockenheim, and same story again with Flavio. I think you wait a bit more, you need a bit more. I just couldn't understand what's going on. I just was disappointed. But anyway, I said, I go to Hockenheim. And I came to Hockenheim, and everybody kind of Chinese smiled to me. The whole paddock, basically. I said, Gerhard, it's so nice to you're back. But what are you doing here? You are sick. You have a difficult time. Your father died, and all the things. And I say, well, this cannot be my end of my career. My end of my career, I will show everybody what I can do. So I really said nothing. I made a press conference saying that I stopped after this year. So again, Flavio and the team was upset. Say, why did you not discuss this before with us? We have to do together press conference, all this thing.
Why didn't you?
because for me it was clear I didn't like the way how everything was handled, and I do my own stuff. So I gave, what I want to say, I went into the car in the worst circumstance you can be. Not fit, father died, team doesn't want you, everybody Chinese smile with you, and say, okay, let's see what you can do. And then to have pole position, win the race, quickest lap, that was really, and then everybody was my friend, and Flavio said, okay, we're going to win the world championship.
Well, you were always quick at Hockenheim, actually, weren't you?
Yeah, Hockenheim, my driving style always fit quite well to Hockenheim.
I mean, Gerhard, I don't know if you're a religious guy, but do you feel that you were sort of getting a bit of help from your dad, Johan, upstairs? Or?
Very simple. If I'm in troubles, I'm a very religious guy. If I'm not in troubles, I forget about it. But to be honest, yes, I was on the podium, and I say, listen, there must be something. I mean, in the end of the day, it's a lot going on in your brain. And now we are on one of your first question where Ayrton had his strengths. His concentration, his brain work was just brilliant. And here in Hockenheim, my brain just said, Gerhard, you show everybody now what is in you, what you can do, what you're able to do. And that made my result.
Do you feel your performance went to another level that weekend?
Yeah. I activated everything I had in my body just to prove what I did.
Now, Gerhard, so look, we're nearly at the end of this. Wonderful to speak to you, but if you had your time again, would you do anything different?
You know, like everybody in life, sitting in a corner, say, can you believe if I would know everything what I know now? Was when I was driving, then I was running BMW Motorsport, now I'm running DTM, then I had Toro Rosso, and I know all this, and I would be just 24, just jumping into arrows. How much success you would have.
Would you be a faster driver, knowing what you know
faster
now?
No, faster no. I don't think you can be faster, but you would avoid just all the mistakes, and there was a lot.
Okay, so with the experience you have now, you might negotiate the paddock better, but actually, you drove for the two best teams in Formula One at that time, Ferrari and McLaren.
Let's say it this way, just to give you a
What
very
would be
simple
different?
example. It would be different already that I would start to do training every day from the morning until the evening, you know, not to be tired after half a race distance.
So you would have taken it a little bit more seriously that side?
Yeah.
Is it true that you are the man who was responsible for bringing Red Bull into Formula One?
I guess in some ways, yes, because I've been the first sportsman of Red Bull before the company even started. I was driving for Eros in 1985 in Austria, in Zeltweg, and there was this man in front of me and said, hello, I want to introduce you myself. My name is Mr. Mateschitz, and I would like to sponsor you. And I said, well, fantastic. This is just like Christmas, because I was bankrupt, and he was my sponsor. And he says, there's one problem. I say, what's the problem? I don't have the money yet. I'm gonna build a company. I'm gonna start a company, and I'm very convinced that it's gonna be good. And I had a smile, and I say, well, I hear this story already very often before. But in some ways, I like the guy, and he liked me, and we had a good chemistry. So we went to drink a beer, and we sit together, and we did a deal. I think the deal was at the time maybe $10,000 or something like this. Nothing. And to put his company onto the helmet, because the name didn't even exist at this time.
What did he say it was going to be?
Well, he's going to build a company, and he's going to give me $10,000 if I put the company on my helmet.
But
and
didn't know it was called Red Bull at the time?
No.
Oh.
I mean, maybe he knows, but I didn't know. So then we were sitting there drinking something, and we made a handshake deal. 2 months later, or 3 months later, I got a telephone call and say, Mr. Berger, you remember me? I'm Mr. Mateschitz. I say, yes, I remember. You remember we had this deal, is it still on? And I say, yes, of course, we made it. We made it. Say, because I just started my company. So that was the start of a working relation. And that was when I started with Red Bull. And then I went with Red Bull into Benetton Ferrari, and I always carried with me, and I always was sponsored by them. And I remember I was going to the podium with the Red Bull, drink, and Bernie went completely bananas because he said, nobody goes up with a brand there, and they stopped me to do this, and it was already the first casino Red Bull made with me. And that was a relationship that started there and growing. And then obviously they did their things. I don't know if finally it was me brought them in, but I'm sure I was a part of it.
And why was he interested in you? Was it because he believed in you as a sportsman, or because you were Austrian?
No, I think he was a motorsport fan. I think he was very much a Jochen Rindt fan. I think he liked my way, and he just decided to use motorsport as one of his platforms. And at this time, nobody could ever imagine what this company one day gonna be.
Even him, probably.
Even him, but he was very convinced that he gonna make his way.
Okay, so you were a sportsman, one of his sportsmen, but then you also became a 50% shareholder in Toro Rosso. Why did you do that?
Well, I mean, I stopped active racing, and Didi says, why we don't do something more together? And there he just bought Minardi at the time, and we decided we do this together. And we are very good friends. We just sit together, and if we have an idea and it fits for both of us, we do it.
And did you enjoy your time running a Formula One team, or?
Yeah, it was very nice together with Franz, who is still there. We had a very good time, and we won the first race, what was a great success at the time. We had a very good season too, thanks Red Bull, because Adrian and we could advantage a lot of their technical support, but in the end of the day, we made the success happen with Sebastian in the car. We won the first race in Monza, if you remember, and we just had a very good time.
I remember there was a good party after that one. But Vettel's an interesting one, because I felt at the time that you were a father figure to him in a racing context. How's he developed over the subsequent 10 years? Is the Vettel we see today what you would have expected,
yes,
knowing what you knew back then?
Absolutely. Vettel, when he came to us, he was, I don't know, was he 24 years or 18 years, 19 years, whatever. And his brain worked like a 30 years, and I experienced the two guys before, Antonio Luzzi and Scott Speed. When I talked with them, they looked to you, especially Scott Speed, looked to you, what you're talking. They didn't have a clue what experience, what 210 Grand Prix brings with you, and which experience you can transfer to them. Vettel was completely different. He sucks out everything of you. He filtered it, the good things he took and the bad things he put on the side, and he just put it race by race into the ground. So the guy was just very grown up when he arrived with us, and you could see his package is right. He's gonna be a successful driver.
Is he more emotional now than you were expecting? I feel at Ferrari there are some emotions that we didn't see in the Red Bull days. The incident with Lewis Hamilton in Baku last year, the start in Singapore, maybe.
He's been always emotional. He's been always emotional in the German way, in the way of Sebastian, not in a lazy way, But what he always had, when he got the possibilities to get success, he took it. He found a way to pick it up. When it was not successful, his body language, his face, everything you can read, he's unhappy, he's emotional, he's just moody.
So, which of the current drivers on the grid is most like you? Is it Vettel?
You cannot do comparison. No.
Not just as a driver, but as a personality as well. I mean, does Daniel Ricciardo... I look at him enjoying his time in Formula One.
Daniel is super. Very, very nice, good guy.
Quite like you?
You cannot repeat me.
You are unique.
I'm unique.
Okay, Berger Grand Prix. You're going to do another Formula One team. Which of the current grid, two drivers on the current grid, would race for you now? Money, no object. Two drivers.
So definitely Lewis is set.
Why?
He's my favorite at the moment.
Why?
He's quick like hell.
Is he as quick as he's always been?
Yeah, he's quick. Oh,
Has Bottas got
talented.
quicker? Has Bottas got quicker this year?
Yeah, but sometimes. But Lewis knows the games in and out. He's very experienced now, and he's super quick. Qualifying race. No, he's my number one.
Okay.
And then maybe I would, to have some fun, I would put Verstappen next to him.
Now, he's an interesting case study, isn't he? So much talent, but What do you feel?
Yeah, doing a bit
Where's
too
he
many
like-
mistakes at the moment, but give him the time. I think he's very talented. He will be there. At the end of the day, the guy is outstanding. I watch him since karting, Formula 3. Very, very competitive guy with a lot of killing instinct. So you have Luis and Max.
That's a team.
That could be.
That's a team.
But I have to say, I love Daniel. He's extremely quick. He's good. Vettel is good. But Daniel is a very interesting guy. Sunshine. It's always quick. It's sometimes a bit underestimated. But I remember when he was driving with Sebastian, he basically beat Sebastian in the year.
Okay, well, Gerhard, it's been wonderful to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time and
Thank
so
you
many
too.
great stories. And you look like you're a man who's still enjoying his life.
Yeah, I'm enjoying, and life is too short to be miserable. So let's have fun and let's enjoy.
It's hard not to love Gerhard, isn't it? There's no rewriting of history, and it's great to hear him speaking with the perspective of time. I don't know about you, but I can't get the image out of my head of him being bundled into the back of a car, face covered, en route to meet the great Enzo Ferrari for the first time. But that's it for now. We'll be back soon with another big name from the world of F1. And to ensure you don't miss out, please subscribe to Beyond the Grid. And you know the drill. Rate, review, and we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on your favourite podcast app. And if you want to get in touch, drop us a line using the hashtag F1 Beyond the Grid. And you cyberstalkers can reach me too at Tom Clarkson F1. Beyond the Grid is produced by F1 in association with Audio Boom. Until next time, keep it flat out.